Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. Another action-packed, jam-packed show on tap for you. It's going to be awesome. Michael Vick may end up being a college football coach. Michael Vick, the man that spent time in Leavenworth, the man that went down for dogfighting, may end up a college football coach. We're going to talk about that today. The hot girls. You remember the hot boys? I think they were Cash Money Records. Well, now there's the hot girls. They're getting all the television hosting jobs in sports. Taylor Rooks just landed a job, I believe, with Amazon and their NBA coverage. We'll talk about that. Deion Sanders, there's no question. He's staying at Colorado. Travis Hunter said it. They just landed a huge recruit, an Alabama transfer. That's amazing. Doug Gottlieb and Adam Schefter kind of went back and forth. We'll talk a little bit about that. Travis Hunter's girlfriend taped an 8-minute response to all of her critics. She certainly wants to be a social media star and is well on her way to doing that. I'm not so sure it's the best thing for Travis Hunter. So what we ended up doing, we ended up inviting Anthony, Virgil, and Kevin back. We're going to talk some more about Travis Hunter. We'll talk a little bit about Michael Vick with those guys and just forgiveness as it relates to Michael Vick. But we're going to start the show with all of these people in sports media and in the media in full backpedal mode. I mean, they're making Deion Sanders look slow. I'm talking about Stephen A. Smith. I'm talking about Colin Cowherd. I'm talking about Van Jones. We'll talk about that at the top of the show. But before I get into any of that, I need you all to make sure you're going to fearlessmission.com and becoming a subscriber and a true supporter of this movement, of this network, of this channel, of everything we're doing here at Fearless. All the information about Fearless can be found at fearlessmission.com. But I need you to take the extra step and become a subscriber. Here's a promo code. Use Fearless. You can save $20 on your yearly subscription. You'll get access to all the content that we produce, including the extra Fearless content. You'll get access to everything the Blaze produces. Fearlessmission.com. Use the promo code Fearless. Save $20 on your subscription. I need you guys to do that. It's important. All right, let's bring in Steve Kim and let's start our discussion about all the backpedaling that's going on. And some of it, Steve, is bothering me. And by the way, TJ Moe and Butter here as well. We got a full house again today. But some of it, before I play any of these clips, Steve, your initial reaction to people like Stephen A. Smith and Colin Cowherd and Van Jones coming over to our way of thinking, you buying it, or is it just a business decision?
With Van Jones, I find it to be more authentic. I mean, he's in that political space, and I'm not a fan of his, but at least he will give his feelings, and I believe that he's much more educated on that particular subject. That's his field of expertise, right? So it is what it is. But for those other two guys, I think it's absolutely hypocritical. I think it's phony. I think it's fraudulent. Here's the issue that I have with these two. They aren't just they're not just telling you what happened or having an honest change of mind, which you're allowed to have. With more information, you could have a differing opinion. But they are now retroactively trying to be on the right side of history. Let's go back about 3-4 months ago. They were openly campaigning for Kamala Harris. That's the truth. They weren't just neutral observers here. Now, I'm not saying I'm neutral. Everyone knows where I stand. Call me Steve Carlton. I'm only left-handed on the mound, but I'm right-handed everywhere else. Okay? But let's go with Colin Cowherd. He literally said,
hold for a second. Let me give a little context. I just wanted you to tease your opinion, not unpack the whole thing. Hold on. I know the Steve Kim show. Let me slow you down, Steve. Let me give you a bit more information, then unpack your whole thoughts. So let me get the audience up to speed. And we'll start with Colin Cowherd, because here's a clip of Cowherd. This is SOT number 2. Cowherd talking about Kamala Harris and joy and uplifting. Let's play SOT number 2.
But people are tired of the angst. This weekend, I turned on CNN. Didn't plan to, but they had a Kamala Harris special. It was like 2 hours. I didn't plan to watch it. But what I noticed between her and the other guy running is she smiled a lot. She was happy. She laughed. It wasn't constant finger pointing and grievance. And I found myself sitting there for 2 hours. It was kind of uplifting. It didn't really matter because I don't know much about Kamala Harris other than what I read, but it was like uplifting. And that's why I'm watching so much of the Olympics. And I watch so much of Copa and the Euros on Fox. Yesterday, I went to lunch with my daughter. It was a nice day out. All I saw, young couples, smiles, dogs, fun, people laughing, playing ping pong outside. People were happy. You would never know that if you sit staring at your iPhone all day. So,
And you might never know that if you lived in a zip code where everyone wasn't a millionaire. But listen, I'm on the record. I have a soft spot for Colin Cowherd. We used to work together. I think Cowherd's well-intentioned. I don't, he's not tethered to a biblical worldview. And so he kind of drifts in the wind. But now let's play Colin Cowherd, SOT number 3. Now, post November 5th, post, Trump making grounds or gaining ground in every state and every county and every district and every neighborhood in America, winning the Electoral College in a landslide, winning the popular vote. Here's Colin Cowherd now. Let's play SOT number 3.
And the NBA, meanwhile, ratings are down 48% in the last 12 years, and they have fallen off a cliff this year. And Adam Silver's solution is let's make the courts brighter. And I like the NBA, but the All-Star game is now embarrassing, and I think load management is a shame on the league. It is a really bad look for a family of 4 to go to a game and Giannis doesn't play or Embiid doesn't play. I'm sorry. Go ask the Democrats. Be warned, once you detach from regular people in America, you will pay a price. And
Sounded like you go woke, go broke. Anyway, your thoughts, Steve.
So let me get this. The NBA is no longer the League of Joy. And by the way, now it's just an embarrassment. Now the NBA All-Star game is not competitive. Now load management is a problem. Kind of like the economy and the border. It just suddenly became a problem right around late October. This is the problem I have with people like Cowherd. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to have a shifting opinion. Some could say that is a mark of intelligence. I get it. But the way he's doing it comes off as disingenuous and dishonest. Do you think he'd be saying any of this if Kamala Harris would have somehow won that election? I don't believe so. I mean, shout out to Greg Foreman, the Black Conservative Perspective. I saw a video over the weekend where he was talking about Cowherd's shifting opinion. There's another video he did, I believe it was a YouTube short, where he actually said, I think America's doing okay. When I take flights, people are on airplanes. When I go to hotels, people are in hotels. So because people are still taking flights and staying at a Howard Johnson, everything's okay. But now all of a sudden it's a problem. Why? This is the issue. They have an agenda, which is okay. We all do. His is among the most dishonest agendas. It kind of reminds me of Anna Kasparian. I'm sure you know who she is. She's flip-flopping like a fish out of water. She's now turning to the other side. But this is the problem I have, because I actually do admire some of her stances now. She only began to see the issue when she was assaulted, when she had an issue, when she was nearly sexually assaulted. And never mind all those other people, those poor damn, the proletariat, these scabs out here, these barbarians out in the street. But when I'm assaulted, now we have a crime problem. Really? That's the issue.
Something's got to open your eyes, though, Steve. I'm actually good with Anna because something happened. I agree. It would have been nice if she had more empathy. She didn't, though. And if you've listened to her, sir, she's actually the only person that I believe of all these idiots who are trying to make the turn here.
What about Zink? Isn't there a guy named Zink that
Never
works with her?
Cenk Uygur. Cenk.
My bad. I
don't believe him. Not
obviously, you don't watch that station.
No, I don't.
Don't believe. He's a hardcore leftist. Anna has been making real arguments. She actually made a great argument about when she started realizing that all Trump supporters weren't these horrible people. Because she had a guy in her apartment who helped her move in one day. She was moving in all by herself. Her husband, I think, is a firefighter. And she's like, this guy, he dropped everything he was doing the whole day, helped me move in, flights of steps, and moved a whole truck. And he was nice to me for months. I didn't find out for years that he was a Trump supporter. And I'm like, oh, it's not what the media is telling me. I think a lot of people have to have that experience. I don't hate on her as much as you do, Steve. I do hate on Stephen A. Smith and Colin, though. So go ahead with your criticism on that.
Well,
okay.
Hold on. Hold for 1 second, Steve. There's a famous saying. I don't know if it was Rush Limbaugh, but it's famous among conservatives. It's like liberals get mugged and then they become conservatives. I can't call off the top of my head, but it's very commonplace. You get mugged by, some robber, and now all of a sudden you're a conservative.
Right.
Go ahead, Steve.
All that is true, and TJ, your point is well taken, but I do have an issue that those in the ivory tower lecturing to people living everyday blue-collar lives that, hey, I don't see the problem, so there is none. There's an incredible arrogance that exists with the elite class. And I'm going to repeat myself here. What happened on November 5th is not just a rebuke or retribution of a political party or a candidate. I really believe that people voted against the symbols that represented them, like a Joy Reid, like The View, like people like Roland Martin. I know I felt that way, and I don't think I'm the only one.
I'm saying this in all authenticity. I have a soft spot for Colin Cowherd. So, but I am going to tell the truth. I'm going to say this, though, in reality. What I wish would happen with Cowherd is that he would acknowledge that, hey, man, I used to think this way. This is what the Anna Kasparian and other more authentic people that are changing up, they acknowledge, like, man, I thought this way and now I'm wrong and blah, blah, blah. Cowherd seems to be pushing it out there like he wasn't a part of that thinking, that he hadn't detached from regular people. And I'm telling you that this is honest to good truth. I'm telling you, I got a soft spot for Cowherd. But he detached from me. And I'm not talking about when I left Fox Sports. I'm not talking about at any point when I was at Fox Sports or in the year initially after Fox Sports. But I became so radioactive to Cowherd because I'm so tethered to my biblical worldview. He quit responding to me over text. We used to be very friendly over text messages, even after I left. And now, I'm persona non grata. He unfollowed me on Twitter. He detached from reality. And Cowherd, what I would say to him, it's like, people like me, we're a necessary evil, Colin. You have to recognize that if you want to be attached to normal people, when you're making all that money, it's important that you stay attached to someone who's not in that elite echo chamber, that bubble, that I got to get as far away from, a MAGA supporter or someone who has a biblical worldview as it relates to the LGBTQ issue. You're detaching from normal people. It's problematic. And you've surrounded yourself with people that live in that bubble, that echo chamber of fantasy world. I'm not saying this to beat up Cowherd. I'm trying to hey, man, you're one of the bright thinkers and used to be one of the more bold people in sports media, and we need more of that. And that's why I celebrated when he pivoted, because we need more of that. But when your go-to guy is, and again, I don't mean this as some super negative shot at Nick Wright, but it is just reality. Nick Wright sat on TV and pretended like he and his wife wouldn't allow their black son to drive a car because the police could potentially kill him. That's how you're detached from reality when someone's having that conversation on your show. This is a 18-year-old black kid saying, I'm not gonna drive because we're not gonna allow him to drive because the police may kill him. And this is in Houston at the time. And I'm like, holy cow, the stats are black kids are gonna kill the kid far more likely than the cops. Are you forbidding him from hanging around with other black boys? But that's how you detach from reality. Steve, hop back in here.
Okay, so in terms of Colin Cowherd and his shifting opinion or mindset, I will give Cowherd this. He's a very intelligent guy. I will not say otherwise. He's also very calculating, which is not a bad thing. But this is what I think his mindset is. Wait a minute. Not only did Donald J. Trump win the Electoral College, he won all 7 swing states, and this is the important part, he won the popular vote. So he's probably thinking, well, wait a minute. So that means a lot of my audience are actually Trump voters. I have to appease them. So that is my point, that there is a lack of sincerity. It's easy now to be reasonable post November 5th. It took balls and intelligent to do it before.
Nick Wright's son has more of a chance of Steve Kim running into the back of him out there driving.
I am Asian. I'm an Asian driver. That's right. I'm an Asian driver. Be careful with us.
High probability.
Yeah,
That's the real
no
Look
argument
at
here.
just unpack Colin's whole statement, and I think you should lose your soft spot for him because he's kind of a bitch boy. Sorry for whatever your soft spot is. He said, I happened to turn on CNN, so he's distancing himself there. He referred to this conversation with Kamala and the other guy. The other guy is the former president of the United States, okay? And so he's slandering it. I just don't think that you should get to yell, there's a fire in the theater, and then when everybody's up crazy and creating this havoc, and then you get to sit down in the front row and watch the movie. I think Colin is he's just become lame, in my opinion. He's kind of a bitch dude, and I don't like the way that this has ended up for him.
Good work, Butter. Good work.
I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I've had to pivot and reassess and do it all transparently. Again, my soft spot for Cowherd is, man, I worked with the guy, and I've always been a polarizing figure in the sports media. And at one time, Cowherd, a Dan Le Batard, a lot of, I'm not thinking of Mike Wilbon. I was always polarizing, and these guys remain friends with me. Now, I got to a point where I became so polarizing that they all ran away from me. I hate to call the one name that is like, is my guy, and because I don't want to get him in any hot water. But I'm gonna just tell you something. Tony Kornheiser has never, ever, ever backed away from me. Love that guy. And I hate to say that, I don't want to put any heat on Tony Kornheiser, but that's a real one. Just end of the day.
That's surprising to me.
And love that guy. And I still have, even for Le Batard, who like really sold me out, but there was a time, because I've always been polarizing, when these guys maintained a friendship with me, defended me publicly.
Colin did?
Yeah. Just wait, he did a show with me.
How generous of Colin to let you do a show and sit next to you while he said nothing of interest.
It's still, I'm just telling you, it's still, you don't understand how people get so emotional about me. And there is a penalty. And again, you don't mind paying that price. You kind of enjoy it, or you don't even consider it a price. Yeah. But there are weaker people, TJ, that aren't attached to Jesus Christ and the Lord. They're weaker than you, far weaker than you. And so I just have some sympathy for it. I don't like giving up on people.
We should give up on Colin. Here's why. Colin is an amoeba, okay? Whatever shape form he needs to take in the moment, that's exactly the shape and form that he takes. Here's the other thing that he does, and this is why I'm glad Butter brought this up. Stephen A. Smith does the exact same thing. Even in their criticism of the left, they give well, we all know the right's horrible and evil and the worst people ever, but I was not expecting this out of the left. Can we all believe this? And here's my criticism. Everything is couched with this assumption that the right is filled with awful, Trump-supporting, evil fascists. And we all should just accept that to even be able to listen to them. These guys are awful.
Steve, I'm going to move on to Stephen A. Smith, but go ahead, Steve.
Right. To Butter's point, there are people that'll never be affected by a presidency or who's in charge. They are the 1%. They make enough money, it really doesn't matter. But there's about 90% of the people in America that a couple of dollars in a price increase to everyday goods, like a stick of butter, which Joe Scarborough could not believe went to $7. But to Joe Scarborough, it wouldn't matter. He'd still buy the same amount of butter, but it would not impact him as it would a family of 5 where a guy's working a double shift at the factory to make ends meet every 2 weeks. That is the problem that I have with people like Colin Cowherd saying, well, I'm not affected. Well, you're not affected by any of this, which is great for you. But you need to stop talking down to those who are actually impacted on a tangible basis. I believe this. Going to Montebello each day, about 5 days a week when I don't travel, and being around real Americans every day, they don't care what I do. They don't even know what I do. And most of them, I believe, just looking at the population index of that particular city, is mostly Mexican American. All legal, by the way. That next day on November 6th, you know what they did? They went to work. They ran their same shops. I went to the same businesses. We have discussions about it. None of them are fearful for Donald Trump coming in with Thomas Homan taking their families out. They don't need to. It's unfounded. But here's the difference, I think, between me and Colin Cowherd, and I'm not making a judgment on either of us. I really believe I actually have a pulse of everyday Americans, because you know why? I'm actually around them a lot more on a day-to-day basis.
Let me, and I will allow you guys to judge me on this. Not that I want to spend a lot of time on this. No, this won't put a smile on your face. I don't think any of you all have had the experience that I have in terms of, hey man, my family finds it difficult to stand with me. And so you just haven't been black and had people in that left-wing cult. And it'll give you a different perspective. And so should I hold Colin Cowherd or some of these people, Dan Le Batard, to a higher standard than my own family?
Colin's white. You don't have that same pressure. I've lived life as a white dude in America.
But no. I'm not comparing. I'm saying, like, if my family's uneasy, why would I be surprised Colin Cowherd's uneasy?
Because your family's black in America. And 92% of all the people that they would interact with day to day, everybody else in the family, what everybody likely believed in the family before you, all thinks one way.
If I lose the soft spot, it's like if I'm not in a mindset of like, man, this is difficult, I understand how the culture puts pressure. If I lose the soft spot for Cowherd and Le Batard and others, it makes me more likely to lose the soft spot for my family. And really, like, the struggle with my family is like, hey man, y'all claiming Jesus Christ. Le Batard and Cowherd and some of these other, they're not. And so when I try to, because all of my arguments are based in a biblical worldview, I can justify all the positions, or I try to justify all my positions by pointing to the Bible and blah, blah, blah. It's when you can't get your family to see it, it's hard for me to be sitting here wagging a finger at Colin Cowherd or anybody else.
You don't have to wag a finger at Colin or anybody else. And there's a clear delineation between your family and some guys you did a show with once. I mean, we can look at anybody in your family and say, they've been with you from the start.
Yes.
They've given you things. They've helped raise you. They've given you money when you didn't have any money.
Yes.
They put you through school. They, whoever it is, stuck up for you in a fight. You story after story. And Colin returned some texts, so we got some loyalty to that guy. I'm serious.
Woo!
What?
No, I'm not a give up on people person. I'm just not, because I look at myself and like, oh boy, thank God people didn't give up. I mean, I was such an idiot in college. I guarantee you, my head football coach Paul Shadell watches this show and he's going, "That's Whitlock? Whitlock is saying that?" And again, Rick Minter, his son Jesse Minter. Rick Minter and I are, but Rick Minter was our defensive coordinator at Ball State. Rick Minter, former head coach at Cincinnati, defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Now his son Jesse Minter's defensive coordinator with Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, and Rick Minter works. But anyway, Rick Minter and I been great friends ever since I got out of college and started the media career. But he's baffled because I was an idiot. I mean, I was probably the biggest idiot on the team. And they sit there, Whitlock? Talking common sense and, responsibility and accountability. And so it's just, I look at how my mind has changed, and
We're having two different conversations.
What?
I don't even know what it means to give up on Colin. He doesn't talk to you. You don't talk to him. It's just like you're not going to jump in and criticize him when he does something stupid. It's different than your coaches or your family who you still have contact with. You never cut them off. They were just like, he was being an idiot before. If they reached out to Whitlock and needed him, you were always there. You just said Whitlock won't return a text. Colin Cowherd won't return a text. We can't have. What is the soft spot? What does it even mean? A guy doesn't have a set of values. It's clear as day. His values are whatever's popular in the moment.
Well, the soft spot is I know he can recover from that.
Well, great. And then maybe he'll shoot you a text and we can have a conversation.
I'm not sitting around going, oh, I wish I could text with Colin Cowherd. I just look at these people and I have sympathy for them because they're not tethered to anything. And so they just blow in the wind. And
that deserves criticism. That's what I'm saying.
It also deserves some sympathy. It also, and not
really?
Giving up. Yeah.
Where else do we give people who sell out for money lots of sympathy? Because those are the people we go after the hardest.
Let me switch up. I'm more comfortable taking a dump on Stephen A. Smith, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, we noticed.
I'm gonna pivot. Damn it, Steve! I'm gonna get lit up now for this. Anyway, let me take care of a little business, then I'm gonna pivot to taking a dump on Stephen A. Smith, which I delight in. Americans are tired and frustrated by a stalling economy, inflation, endless wars, and a relentless assault on our values. Thankfully, there's a company like Patriot Mobile that still believes in America and our Constitution. I'm proud to partner with Patriot Mobile because they're on the front lines fighting for the First and Second Amendments, sanctity of life, and our military and first responders. Take a stand for conservative causes and put America first by switching to Patriot Mobile today. You'll get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile operates across all three major networks. Plus, they back their service with a coverage guarantee. Their 100% US-based customer service team will find the best plan for your needs. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT. Right now, get a free month when you use the offer code Jason. Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. They don't and they can't. Join me. Switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider, Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT for your free month of service today. Steve, guys, let's play a couple of clips here from Stephen A. Smith doing the. Let's start with Stephen A. Smith talking about January 6th and how he's had an epiphany now that 3-4 years later. Oh yeah, them January 6th people, they got done wrong. Let's play SOT number 5.
I want to get into some politics before we get on out of here, as we've now entered the final month of Joe Biden's presidency. And for the sake of argument, it hasn't been a good one. The Democrats lost the White House, Senate, and House in the November election. Meanwhile, this week, FBI Director Christopher Wray announced plans to resign at the end of the Biden administration as President-elect Donald Trump takes office in January. The news comes amidst a bombshell report from the Justice Department that revealed the FBI had at least 26 confidential informants on the ground when the Capitol was stormed on January 6, 2021. The report says most of the informants engaged in illegal activity during the chaos. The Justice Department says only 3 of its 26 informants present had been instructed to observe potential domestic terrorist suspects on the day of the riot. The rest of the 23 appeared to have gone to the Capitol on their own accord. Upon hearing news of the report, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance posted the following on X, quote, "For those keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago," end quote. So 23 folks for the FBI were in the crowd. And we're just finding that out. Didn't hear anything about that for the election. Didn't hear anything about that when the quote-unquote insurrection was broached by Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee, by President Biden before her, by Democrats in both the House and the Senate as they articulated the belief that Donald Trump was a danger to democracy and using this as a profound, illuminating bullet point to make that case. And now here we are yet again finding even more evidence to Donald Trump's claims when he articulated that the process is rigged, the Democrats are this or that, they're talking about us, but look at what they do. We don't know all the details. It's a report. Justice Department comes out with this. That's not my big issue. My big issue is that I'm really, really sick and tired of every time I turn around finding something else that the Democrats have lied about or downplayed or misrepresented along the way.
So what bothers me about this clip is I've seen a lot of conservatives celebrating it and pushing it out. Oh, Stephen A., it's all a big deal. Here he is 3 years after the fact, and he's admitting it and blah. And I'm just like, why are we giving Stephen A. Smith credit? Why? I don't mind putting it out, but put it out in the context of like, look at this idiot figuring out what we've known for 3 years. Rather than, oh, this is great, Stephen A. Smith, because, and again, the reason why, and some people are like, man, you'll criticize Stephen A. Smith because he's black, but you got a soft spot for Colin Cowherd because he's white. Stephen A. Smith did a 45-minute video calling me the devil, the seed of the devil, and fat bastard, and blah, blah, blah. Colin Cowherd's never attacked me aggressively. Colin Cowherd has taken shots at me subtly to distance himself, provide himself some cover or whatever, but he's never attacked me directly. I've never worked with Stephen A. Smith. I've never wanted to work with Stephen A. Smith. He's lied about that. Stephen A. Smith wrote a book lying about his entire narrative, background, life. But Colin Cowherd has not done that. Stephen A. Smith is far more fraudulent than Colin Cowherd, far more fraudulent. Colin Cowherd's not claiming he got a basketball scholarship from Big House Games after hitting 17 straight three-pointers. Colin Cowherd doesn't have the political aspirations and really doesn't want the political influence that Stephen A. Smith wants. Colin Cowherd never recorded a video wagging a finger telling black people, take this medical trial experiment they're calling a vaccine, and wagging a finger at them and saying, tisk, tisk, tisk. Colin Cowherd, as far as I know, didn't go after Kyrie Irving for posting a poster of a documentary that Jews didn't like. Stephen A. Smith did that. That's why I don't like Stephen A. Smith, for all that and a bunch more. And that's why I don't have a soft spot. He's a fraud. He's a plant. He's on a puppet string for his masters. Colin Cowherd may be attached to the same puppet strings, but they're not as obvious. He's not as flamboyant about it. He's not, and so it's just different. Stephen A. Smith is a fraud and a plant, and he's there to mislead, misguide black people. And it bothers me. And that's why when I think of the fraudulent backpedals that are going on, his is the most fraudulent. Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's almost as if the useful idiot has realized, boy, I'm a useful idiot. And so I have a question. Is he upset at the Democratic Party, or is he upset that he was wrong the whole time? Again, we're talking about the sincerity of the statements. This is a guy that basically acted as a surrogate for a particular candidate in the last election. And his all of a sudden realization of what has taken place. I mean, if he was a captain of the Titanic, he's the guy as the hull falls into the Atlantic Ocean saying, God, maybe we shouldn't have ran into that big block of ice. I should have slowed down or veered course. I don't find a lot of courage in this sudden enlightenment post November 5th. I really don't. But again, this goes back to sincerity. Now I found, this is great. I guess you can call this black on black crime. Roly-poly Martin. He's upset at Stephen A. So I have a question. Stephen A., are you going to have the courage of your convictions now to tell Roly-Poly to step off? And the next time you're invited to The View, will you have the guts to stand and deliver what you just said right then? Because a lot of this, again, it's easy to say this in the aftermath or what's going to come, because, again, we're all preparing for the adults to take back the White House, January 20th. I'm counting down the days. Everyone is kind of saying this now to almost get clemency for their past opinions. Because unlike 20 years ago, Jason, you could write something completely reckless and inaccurate, and how many people would really remember it? In the age of social media, where people can screenshot something within a second, I'm just telling you, you are held more accountable now than ever for those type of statements.
I think what they're doing, I mean, Stephen A., but more Stephen A. than Colin, because Stephen A. is getting into the political lane with his podcast and all that. I think it's clear. You had guys who took real risks. RFK is one of them, a lifelong Democrat. His own family came out and denounced everything that he said. They had a family party to talk about how crazy this guy is. Who's the billionaire? Bill Mitchell, is that right? Anyway, there's a billionaire that came out recently. Elon Musk, a former Democrat.
Bill Ackman?
Bill Ackman, thank you. Elon Musk, a former Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat. There's Democrats who took real risk when it mattered, like Steve's saying. And then you have the idiots like Stephen A., like Bill Maher, like Colin to some degree, not as bad, who want credit like those people got, but after the fact without taking any of the risk. That's all this is. And conservatives are dumb enough, as you're pointing out, to give them the credit post-mortem. Okay, it's over, election's gone, but look, these guys, these are the Democrats who get real credibility because they'll just call balls and strikes. They weren't when it mattered, but what credit do you get for calling balls and strikes on December 17th? Somebody help me out here. What credit? Because it's over. Republicans have all the power. They've got everything. So Republicans have, we always say the Democrats have all the power, but that's not true. Of the three branches of government, Republicans permanently, at least for a while, have the judicial branch. And so the Supreme Court is the firewall. But right now, Republicans have the presidency, the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. And I think 30 of these state legislatures. Republicans are dominating. What good is it to be hypercritical of the Republicans right now? He's saving his own butt. That's it. All he's saying is, guys, please don't be too mean to me. I know we were really mean to you, and this is something that really, really bothers me. Democrats, when they are in power, govern like they're never going to be out of power again. But Republicans, when they're in power, govern like they're going to lose power tomorrow.
Couple clarifications real quick. Colin very regularly on his show would passive-aggressively lecture people about vaccines. He was very vocal about that and very toxic about it, very, very wagging the finger at people.
Man, these guys got receipts on Cowherd. Go ahead.
Secondly, Stephen A. Smith, still like an adult standing underneath his mom's leg yelling at everybody. He's got cover. He's not for real. But to your point about Bob Iger and grooming him for a presidential candidate, and I think some of your concerns that you mentioned a few weeks ago, that you don't like that he's being positioned this way,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to just kind of keep the tone down on that. Kind of like we talk about yoga pants out there in the world with women. Don't get into that lane. Let it exist because it's a good thing, okay? Most of the time. With Stephen A. Smith, we need that kind of person out there. We want them propping up a Stephen A. Smith because he stands for nothing and it's very transparent. It's actually a good thing what's happening for him.
If it were just leftists propping him up, I wouldn't be as concerned. It's the conservative people that are propping him up that should know better. And again, you know, Mike Cernovich makes this point all the time. It's just like conservatives get all aroused when some leftist says something, and we'll make sure we push out and, oh, Stephen A. Smith. But we won't celebrate our own. Hey, Matt Walsh has been standing tall on this. Let's make sure we're pushing out his stuff and celebrating him. Instead, we get, Bill, every week, every Friday during his, or Saturday morning, Friday night, whenever Bill Maher says anything, people can't wait to push it. Oh, Bill Maher even said it, and blah, blah, blah.
That's a business move. That's a business move.
Not from us, though.
No, but like that, those people who want that extra audience and that extra click and that extra thing, they're not really supporting that. It's a business move.
But people buy into it. That's the danger, right?
I don't think that they do. I think we proved that in this election. We have seen a clarity on what actually is substance and not. And America doesn't, just because you're being lectured or shown it on TV, doesn't subscribe to it. We saw that in this election.
I don't know. A lot of people think Bill Maher is like the most reasonable Democrat. People have bought that lie. He's not. He has Trump derangement syndrome with the most radical people in America. He's not a reasonable person. He just criticizes his own people occasionally, and we're like, oh yeah, criticize. It's like, why don't we just listen to our own people criticize the Democrats? Why should he get a bigger platform? Because I know a lot of conservatives who do watch him. And they sit around and they're like, well, he's going to be somewhat reasonable, and he'll call out the trans thing. I don't know what is the benefit of having Bill Maher be against some of these things? But I don't know what it is. Why can't the conservative? Because he's not helping in the vote. So just him trying to moderate the conversation, I don't know that it's useful. We've got way more people on our side that can moderate the conversation and actually win and take it in a better direction. Because believe me, if you ever give Bill Maher an ounce of power, we're going to be worse off than we are today.
I'm going to have to think about that. I want to move the conversation because this actually went longer than I anticipated. So we're going to switch up topics. But before we do that, I want to talk about the Center for Academic Faithfulness and Flourishing. Everyone knows that college is a major investment, so it's important to do your research and for the prompter to move so that maybe the prompter's frozen. And important to do your own homework. You want to find a school that shares your values, but who has time to dig through all of those websites to find what really matters? Well, today, I'm excited to share a new online resource that does the work for you, ChristianCollegeGuide.com. This online directory of more than 250 Christian colleges is a one-step shop. Like any other college guide, you can view all the basics, acceptance rates, tuition costs, academic majors, etc. But here's what makes CollegeChristianGuide.com special. You can use this guide to learn about a school's faith tradition, its campus policies, and its spiritual life. All the info that shows a college's true character. You'll find answers to more than 150 questions for every school profile, making this the definitive guide to Christian higher education. And the best part, this college guide is free to the public. That's right, free. Just go to ChristianCollegeGuide.com to create a user profile and get started today. That's ChristianCollegeGuide.com. Steve, gentlemen, I want to move on to Michael Vick. And this may get a little long-winded as well, but maybe not. What do we think about Michael Vick potentially being a college football coach at Sacramento State University or Norfolk State University, which is right there in his home state of Virginia, But Michael Vick, the former NFL star, the dual threat quarterback, the original Lamar Jackson, the man that went to prison for dogfighting, did 2 or 3 years in Leavenworth, a guy that I'm a huge supporter of. I love what Tony Dungy, mentoring Michael Vick in his second go around in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles and Andy Reid. I love Michael Vick and the way he's handled his fall from grace and reemerging. I think Michael Vick mostly represents something positive, but I'm not 1,000% sure he should be a college football head coach. I'm a tiny bit up in the air on that. Steve, I'll let you fire first. What do you think about Michael Vick as a college football head coach?
You know, has he had a lot of experience as an assistant coach? I haven't really heard of it. Maybe he's done some instruction, but I get the sense he'd be a better fit at Norfolk than he would in Sacramento. But if this brings him a purpose in life, I'm all for it. I believe Michael Vick has been rehabilitated. I don't like when people bring up the dogfighting as some sort of life sentence that he should never be able to come back from. Look, he did the crime. He did the time. He paid his debt to society. I've always thought he was a very reasonable, intelligent human being. He deserves an opportunity to do whatever he wants after all this has passed by. But the question then becomes, is he experienced enough to do this? Now, people will say, well, what about Coach Prime? Again, if you actually delve into Coach Prime, he actually did coach high school. He had some experience. He worked his way up. May have been an expedited process or expedited, but there was a process. My only concern is, no matter what level of college football you're at, does he have the actual seasoning for this to become a long-term career?
I'm just going to get destroyed by the dog lovers for this, but it's never, since I was a little kid. When did this happen? In 2007, he pleaded guilty, so this came out in 06-ish. I was, 15, 16 years old. It's never resonated with me that this is a felony, that we put this guy behind bars for 2 years for dogfighting. Pit bulls, have you ever seen a pit bull? They're waiting to fight. They're waiting to attack your 3-year-old child. That's what pit bulls do. So he funded it. I assume he was there for some of it, but some of this is like white collar crime type stuff. Again, we'll get into this with the pastors, and there's such a big difference between the inherent value of the life of a human and the inherent value of the life of a dog. And disclaimer, I love dogs. We had a dog until it passed away. I'm gonna get another dog. I like dogs. I don't think you should do the things he did, and I do think as Christians we do have a responsibility to look after animals. None of this was good. You put a guy behind bars for 21 months for this, and he's a convicted felon, and now we're talking about should it be, he was one of the most gifted quarterbacks of all time. I'm sure he has some knowledge to give. He was actually a decent broadcaster, I thought, on Fox. He's got some knowledge. He's a likable guy. We're saying he shouldn't be around kids because he funded some dogs that want to fight each other?
I don't think people are making the argument he shouldn't be around kids. I think they're arguing, should he be entrusted with the leadership and molding of kids?
I don't think
not his own.
I don't think he should be entrusted with the leadership and molding of dogs. Kids? I've seen no evidence that he do this to children.
I tend to agree with you. I do think I have a softer spot for dogs, but I think that pit bulls are not what I really consider dogs.
Well, that's what these were.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. Okay. And so that is the thing. You couldn't say it back. When did this go down?
2007 is when
2007, 2006, whatever. You couldn't say it back then. But again, like, you're talking about pit bulls. Those aren't dogs. And all the people that keep pit bulls I always think this is stupid. You're just keeping something that will potentially harm you. And harm your children, or harm another pet, or harm something. I've never understood you ever see Allie Beth Stuckey's feed where she's pretty hard on pit bulls, and there's a certain breed of dog that needs to be put down, and we need to quit holding them up like they're the same as Lassie or Benji or Rin Tin Tin or who are the famous dogs am I not thinking of?
Toto.
The Dog Pound. I'm the rap. Anyway, so I that is one of the reasons why I wanted Anthony and Virgil to come on later on the show and just give us a little bit of a biblical perspective on how we should treat animals.
And again, man, I go out and kill deer every single year, and everybody's good with it. They give me permits.
Rudolph, would you kill Rudolph?
I would kill Rudolph, yeah.
And I wouldn't like that.
Family's got to eat. But even in Missouri, this just happened recently. The black bear population is getting higher. You can get permits to go kill bears. What are you doing with a bear? You're using it as a rug in your house, and or you may take it to a
Can't you eat bear?
You can't. Nobody's saying, man, I'm dying for some bear right now. Let's go out and hunt. You can go take an African safari right now.
No knock until you've tried it.
You can go out, take an African safari right now and go kill some animals. Like hunting animals, you would never, unless you're reading The Most Dangerous Game, you're not hunting people. So there's just a difference here. And again, these dogs are fighting each other, and many of them were put down after that. I get it and all that. It's animal entertainment. Again, not justifying it, but give him a massive fine and some community service. Behind bars for 21 months is absurd to me.
Jason.
I tend to agree with you, and I don't think it eliminates him from being an asset. Go ahead, Steve.
I remember during the glory days of Speak for Yourself, that fine program, Michael Vick, during the height of the Colin Kaepernick conversation, actually had the temerity and the guts to say, you know, if I'm Colin Kaepernick, why don't you make yourself more presentable? Get a shorter haircut. I remember the heat that he took, and I said, you know what? That took a lot of integrity to actually to give that type of advice. He took so much heat on social media, but I said to myself, you know what? I give Michael Vick credit. He's a well-known figure who went against the grain to give someone honest advice. Right there, I said, you know what? Maybe you are. Maybe you are up for this job.
Here's what's interesting with me. It's like, if this were Ray Lewis, I would be standing on a desk screaming, yes, give him the job, give him the job, give him the job. And people have the same complaint about Ray Lewis.
Yeah, Atlanta.
You know, I just happen to know Ray and just have talked with him in detail about that story. I actually, you know, I don't know him in a real way, but I spent time. The actual guy that killed the guy in that car, I actually know him. He was a friend of Derek Thomas's. Used to come to Kansas City for Derek Thomas' golf event. Big Oomph was his name. But anyway, I don't know why I can't. Maybe if Ray had done 21 months in prison, I'd have reservations, but maybe I shouldn't. And I just need to accept that, you know, and live up to my values and principles that, hey, Mike Vick has repented for his deal. Tony Dungy, a remarkable job mentoring him. And, you know, Michael Vick has been made new. And I guess I'm going to land on, I wish him well. I hope that he lands one of these jobs. But I do think there will be people complaining, the Michelle Beadles of the world. There are some real dog lovers out there. I mean, some people that legitimately love their dogs more than human beings.
Yeah, J.D. Vance talked about them before the election.
Yeah, that's idolatry. Yeah. You've putting dogs on a pedestal, and it's Butter. You're a dog guy. You got 2 kids.
I love dogs. I love dogs. I don't associate what happened in his past specifically to this decision. Is your concern over his coaching ability or the?
No. It's just wrapping my mind around. Hey. An ex-con is the head coach at a college, and
I think at this time of our lives, somebody to be in those kids' lives with perspective and what he can bring to the table, I think will be an advantage to them. Whether or not they become a prospective great football program, I think his perspective and ability to connect for that level, I think, could be an advantage to some people.
Last thing on this, there's such oversight in the college game. It would be really hard for him to step out on line, particularly as a guy who's a convicted felon. There's unbelievable oversight. And I get it, there you have the Jerry Sandusky's of the world and all that. Every one of those stories has made it so there's more oversight. I mean, the athletic director, particularly in football, because they run everything. There's so many people. It takes one squeaky wheel, that's an improper term, but one person to come out and say, hey, this ain't good, what Mike's doing. And Mike's done, and he would know that.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, stick with us. Go ahead. Final thought.
Last point I'll make. He actually admits, I should have been a harder worker. I wasn't prepared. I should have been a better player because I was not a work ethic guy. And I actually think that's the type of guy that'd be effective with wayward young men. Just that alone, that admittance to me shows growth and a person with perspective. I'm okay with Michael Vick getting this job, for the record.
It's certainly, he has more self-awareness than a lot of guys that were superstars at his level. Yeah. I guarantee Deion Sanders could say the same thing, but he would never admit that. He'd pretend like he never missed a practice. Anyway, I'm not gonna beat up Deion while trying to talk good about Michael Vick today. Let me take care of a little business, and we're gonna switch up topics. I want to talk to you about Homestead, a new movie coming from Angel Studios, and the upcoming film Homestead coming to theaters on December 20th. Amid chaos, an ex-Green Beret joins a pepper compound. Love grows, truth arises, communities unite. Packed with heart-pounding tension, moral dilemmas, and a story that cuts to the core of what it means to survive, Homestead explores the humanity behind the apocalypse. Pre-order your tickets for a chance to win a $300,000 giveaway, which includes 1 Bitcoin, a fully furnished tiny home from Box House, a custom Polaris OHV by Sparks Motors, and everything else you'd need to start your own homestead. Pre-order tickets for your chance to win at angel.com/Jason. That's angel.com/Jason. See you in theaters this Christmas season. Steve, there's a hot girl revolution going on in the sports media world. Taylor Rooks has stepped to the forefront. She's been named the host of the NBA show that will be on Amazon. Let me think of who are these other. Let me remind myself of the other. Yeah, you got Kay Adams at Netflix. She's going to be the host of their Christmas NFL package. You got Malika Andrews at ESPN hosting their NBA show. You got now Taylor Rooks. You got Maria Taylor over at NBC Sunday Night Football. You got Carissa Thompson over at Amazon hosting their NFL show. Man, you got to be a hot woman to host one of these shows. I wonder if this is why all these WNBA players are so upset because they know there's a bias towards hot women in the sports media world. Or on a more serious, what do you think of all Taylor Rooks? It's like this is a different kind of DEI. I need to come up with a different diva something that all these divas earn. I don't know, divas. Anyway, I'll come up with something for I'm mumbling everything today. I'm just screwing up here. I'm sorry about that. But Steve, your thoughts on hot women getting all the hot jobs in sports media?
Where have you gone, Brent Musburger? We are no longer looking live at males. Now, and I don't mind it. They're the host. I'm going to say this again. I'm very consistent. As the point guard, i.e. eye candy, who hands it off, I'm good. Now, I'm going to go TJ Moe here. If it's an all-women thing on the desk, turning it off, don't want to see it. But again, as the John Stockton that leads us into the commercial breaks, comes out of it, has a pretty smile, looks presentable, very female, very feminine, very attractive. Jason, fellas, I'm okay with this.
I'm not.
What?
And I say that having great love and affinity. Every one of these ladies I just named is a 9 at the worst. I mean, these are beautiful, beautiful women. But they're not Ernie Johnson. Steve, if NBA, inside the NBA is the gold standard,
right?
And if College Game Day is the gold standard part 2, why are we not hunting for more gold? Why are we settling for I would fugazis. What fake gold? Why are we settling for fool's gold? If these women, and this will be a secular moment on the show, but if they're being hired for their looks, then put them out there like those Brazilian weather people that I see in other countries where they show off their best assets, because once they're the host of the conversation is only going to go so far.
Well,
they're not
okay.
Ernie Johnson.
You know what? I cannot even argue that. And by the way, in Brazil, after watching those weather reports, it's always a bright, sunny day. But you're right, because the reality is, but here's the issue. Inside the NBA is an anomaly. It'll never be done again. That's guy talk. That is locker room talk within the parameters of television. There will never be another show like that. They made the template, and when they conclude their run, whenever that is, there'll never be a show like that. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Whitlock. If you include a woman in that discussion, it'll change. The dynamic will not be quite identical. It can't be. I don't think it'll be as fun. Guys will start editing themselves or start censoring themselves. You're right. But here's the reality. None of those other shows can be, will be, or will try to be inside the NBA.
Well, be their own version, be something similar. Or
Fox NFL Sunday is their own version.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah,
Fox
too
NFL,
many
the
guys.
3 best shows on television, and they're older, but it has been a good show for, 15 years or more. And so I like
Longer
Fox.
than that.
Yeah, Fox NFL Sunday. I love the TNT show, and I love College Game Day now that they've added Pat McAfee, which is just locker room stuff. He's just a guy in there who's just having fun. It's the stuff that Pat McAfee does every time he's trying to hype up the crowd and he stands up on the chair and does whatever chant is. That's all the stuff you do in the locker room, and all the guys kind of get that. It's just different. Why can't we? This is something we there's one. We have one group. Okay, so for Amazon, you get your one group here. Maybe we should have 2 or 3 groups. And why can't we just see? Why can't we just have an all-male panel? Why can't we have some of our own spaces? You can have an all-female panel, and as many people want to watch that, go for it. I don't have anything against these women, great. But if I want to consume something that is specific that you can only get from guys, why can't I have that? And I think the audience would appreciate that.
Certainly. Listen, there's one woman on this list, Carissa Thompson, who is different. She allows men to be men. And you can watch that Amazon football show. And, I'm not a big fan of Richard Sherman, but the rest of that show, Gonzalez, Whitworth, Ryan Fitzpatrick,
Sherman.
It's a pretty good show. And Carissa Thompson allows men to be men. The rest of these women, for the most part, they'll go full Michelle Beadle on you. They'll turn on a dime and, you said something that could be construed as sexist or could be construed as racist, or I can have my moment on this show to embarrass you and clout chase, blah, blah, blah. And that's where Taylor Rooks falls into that category. Taylor Rooks' most famous outfit on social media is a see-through dress that allows you to see her big cans and nipples. But trust me, she'll put them out there, she'll flirt with these guys, but if there's an opportunity to snake one of these guys and elevate herself, she's going to take it. That's who she is. And that's who most of these women are, because they don't have anything really to say about sports. And so the only thing they can, you offended me, or you offended the audience. And everybody has to, Barkley can't do, trust me, if he were trying to do his fat San Antonio women jokes with another woman on the platform, and she's sitting there thinking about her best friend, or someone is blowing up, why are you letting Barkley make them fat jokes about women, blah, blah. It just changes the conversation. It's less authentic. Go ahead, Steve.
I remember Malika Andrews trying to call in and lecture Stephen A. Smith about Udoka. And Stephen A. Smith wanted to go Ike Turner. I mean, he wanted to go Wayne Brady, but he didn't. Kept his cool, was professional. But, now I know after this show what I'm going to Google, Taylor Rooks' outfit. But, I know
It's a
of
beautiful
guy.
picture.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, pretty good there. Anyway, so I know of a guy that covers boxing. I don't want to say his name. He's a great friend of mine. He watches the show regularly. And he basically told me, I no longer go on these boxing chats or these panels if a female is included. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, Steve, they ruin the conversation. If you don't agree with them or if you disagree with them too harshly, they take it the wrong way and it changes the whole atmosphere and it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. I don't find it fun. So when I'm invited, I look at the list and he just told me if there's a female, he says, no, I can't, I'm busy. So that does exist, what you talk about, Jason.
Oh, it's like women, they can have the view.
Right.
But we can't have our version of the view.
Right.
They get to have a bunch of dingbats sitting around saying illogical things, and we just have to deal with it. And they make news every day saying illogical things, and we just have to deal with it. But men, and again, they're saying, well, hold on. You got Inside the NBA, you got College Game Day, you got the NFL studio show on Fox. How much more do you? Well, we needed all of it because it's better. It's better that way.
Well, the thing, too, is that Molly Qerim is the person I would say specific to this. Her main job is just to patrol the conversation and make sure that they don't say things that she deems to be inappropriate. That's it. That's the entirety of her job. Hold on, Stephen A. Hold on, Stephen A. 1 second, Stephen A. Over and over and over. That's all I hear the whole show. I hear Stephen A. take and then Molly saying, hold on, Stephen A. Let me correct you there.
Overseer, yes. She's with a producer in her earpiece. She's there to make sure. She's a Negro wrangler. That's her job, to wrangle Negroes. And again, it hurts the conversation. Not that, anyway, I think I'm done here. Steve, I think I'm done with you. I want to get back to the pastures. Steer me back away from the Taylor Rooks conversation. I've already sent people Googling the internet looking for
I'll be right on that in about a minute.
Anyway. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Great job as always. Make sure you guys are getting your Fearless merch. Go to fearlessmissionmerch.com today. You can check out everything we have from Fearless Army t-shirts, hats, and dog tags to our God, Country, and Truth Bomb shirts, and a whole lot more. You can find Blaze Media merchandise on there as well. Go to Fearless Mission Merch. fearlessmissionmerch.com. Check out my merchandise. Everything the Blaze has to offer. Use the promo code JASON10 to get 10% off your entire order. That's fearlessmissionmerch.com. Promo code JASON10 for 10% off today. Virgil, Anthony, and Kevin around the corner. We're going to continue to talk about Michael Vick and Travis Hunter's girlfriend. She made news again. X. Scary is happening. Oh, here's music we play when something funny is happening. Well, there's a sound when football is happening that you want to hear. And there's a bass in the voice of that person that most women don't have. And so it is what it is. I listen to Beth Mowins call women's basketball games, and I'm not remotely annoyed.
That's right.
It sounds perfectly, it sets the tone. I know what I'm watching. It is what it is. But this forcing of women into these spaces and the women forcing themselves and going through this delusion of, hey, we can do this just as good as the men. No, you can't. No, you can't. Because we talked about this earlier in the week, okay, what's the best shows, the best sports shows? Inside the NBA, 4 guys, Fox's NFL broadcast crew, from the studio, Kurt Menefee and those 4 former NFL either coaches or players. And then the third one is College Game Day. And that's Reese Davis and Pat McAfee and now Nick Saban and Wesley Corso. It's a bunch of guys. We know what the best is. And so if somehow these women could do it just as well as men, they would have done it, because trust me, I'd rather look at a bunch of hot women talking sports than I would a bunch of guys. Caitlin Clark, she's been conquered. I knew this was a possibility, and behind the scenes I was halfway predicting this, that, look, man, she has been sent to the very, very front line of the culture war, of this patriarchy versus matriarchy, this LGBTQ, heterosexual war, the whole gender warfare that's going on, all of this cultural warfare. The WNBA is a feminist, woke stronghold. Perhaps the strongest stronghold of all the strongholds that the satanic left hold. And so we take this little small town girl from Iowa that started the University of Iowa, and we drop her behind enemy line, the WNBA, the Woke Negroes Basketball Association, the group of angry lesbians who have this basketball gay pride tour that visits 12 different major cities. And it's just a little sex tour during the summer of gay pride and the whole LGBTQIA plus movement. All right, welcome back. I wanted to continue the conversation about Michael Vick and dogfighting. I want to continue the conversation from yesterday about Travis Hunter and his girlfriend. She put out a new video with some interesting stuff for us to react to. But I kind of wanted to get a little biblical conversation as it relates to Michael Vick and dogfighting and our responsibility towards animals as it relates to humans, and particularly as it relates to dogs. TJ and I and Shemeka this morning were having a very spirited conversation about Michael Vick and about dogs and how we should view the dogfighting charges that sent him to prison. And so I wanted to hear from our experts on how we should view this. I'm someone that loves dogs, haven't had a dog since I was a kid, but I kind of put pit bulls in a different category. Am I doing justice, TJ, to what our debate was this morning, and why I was like, man, I want to hear from Anthony and Virgil and Kevin on this?
Yeah, obviously we're talking about Michael Vick, and he's now a convicted felon, and so should he be able to be a coach? So that's where all this started, and I'm like, I mean, is he really a convicted felon? Should you be a convicted felon for this? Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the road we went down, because we're like, and kind of what my thought is like, biblically, and I'm open to correction on this because I'm certainly not an expert in this area, but there just seems like such a clear delineation between the value of a human life and the value of an animal life. Mm-hmm. And that is why, since the start of this, it has felt so weird to me that we've treated Michael Vick this way. Like, yes, it's inhumane. No, anybody would suggest you do this, and you should get something. Bunch of community service, a really fat fine, whatever. 21 years behind bars?
21 months.
21 months behind bars, and then the rest of your life, we look at you like, I went to college with a guy that digitally raped a woman and got 4 months in prison. 4 months. Michael Vick got 21 months. So that's why I'm trying to square these things about how we're looking at this. I'm like, I don't like it, but I'm not looking at Mike the same way a lot of people are.
Biblically, there is a clear delineation that you point out between the life of a human and the life of an animal. As it relates to our responsibility to animals, it's really cultural. So in the Bible, early in Scripture, animals were viewed either for their utility in service or food, and oftentimes it bled over. So you kept a lot of sheep, for example. That's utility, clothing, etc. But then you also, at some point in time, slaughtered them. You ate them. So that was the dynamic. There wasn't a companion type dynamic with man and animal. It was really for utility. Donkeys, horses, transportation, plowing, etc. But again, you don't really see that companion piece. The reason I speak to the cultural dynamic is here in our Western culture, we do have the utility animals, okay? We like horses, we ride them, all that kind of stuff, but we don't eat them, okay? We also have animals that we use for utility and we eat. But then we also have this companion. We've got dogs, we've got cats and birds, et cetera, that we keep around. But you go to Eastern cultures, they'll eat all of them. And so this would not have even been a debate in an Eastern culture as far as what he did with the dogs, but we have this as it relates to the entertainment piece. Now, what I was saying real time, Jason, and this is when you were still on TV, and I think Michelle Beadle was making a big case about it. I was tweeting her every time I could because I'm saying, you're making a big deal over this guy and dogs, while at the same time, we live in a culture that is aborting kids every day. So we're saying, okay, I care so much about these dogs, but we can't even talk about this abortion issue. And that's like, okay, that's where we have to put it into perspective. Looking back to his coaching, piece, he's done his time. He's paid his fine. They even brought him back in the NFL. So, okay, we have kind of forgiven that, but there's this stain. I'll say this, and then you guys come on in. I think that this dust up is really more about a lot of these athletes that are coming into coaching the non-traditional way. And we're trying to find some kind of way to stick it. You got Deion, Ed Reed potentially getting some coaching looks, Ray Lewis getting some coaching looks. Eddie George getting, and they came to coaching with a superb athletic, resume, but not a coaching. They weren't an assistant coach, a position coach, et cetera. So I think that's one of the, let's pull this back up on Vick, because I don't know, as a felon, et cetera, but biblically, yeah, there's a clear delineation between humans and animals.
Virgil, dig in a little bit on just cruelty to animals, as I think is what some people watch. It's like, well, hold on, man. Are you saying you can be cruel to animals and be biblically sound?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think you look at Genesis 1, the creation of man and the dominion that he has been given over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all of those things. You see that in Genesis 1, 26 through 28. The Bible does speak to the need for us to be compassionate with animals. When I thought about animal cruelty, and I thought, how would I develop a quick theology about animal cruelty? And quickly verses came to mind. Proverbs 12:10, it talks about whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. In other words, it's only the cruel people in the world, the wicked people in the world, who actually are cruel to animals. You have Exodus 23:12. It talks about 6 days you shall work, and on the seventh you shall rest. But it also, in that text of scripture, also provides rest for the animals who actually work in the field as well. So what's being laid out here is the obvious case that there is some level of respect that we should have, some care that we should have for animals as a part of God's created order, that they shouldn't be abused or misused in any way, shape, or form. That's what Scripture lays out. I agree, though, with Anthony. I think there are other issues at play as it relates to Michael Vick and others who are looking to get into the area of coaching that haven't gone through the traditional process, but also are looking for opportunities to kind of redeem themselves. They've had a bad fall, or they've done some things that they regret, and now they want to give some insight into how young men should respond today. And I think once they've paid their debt, they should be given the opportunity.
There's a Proverbs 12:10 rescue here in Nashville, Tennessee. And, they're using a biblical view for compassion towards animals, and specifically dogs and cats, the ones we see as pets and companions. But, I'm a huge Michael Vick fan. He's one of those guys who, I grew up in Virginia. He put Virginia Tech on the map. He was just so great to watch in the pros. And I was really disappointed when I heard about the dogfighting thing, but I could never get a grasp on it. It seemed like someone was using his house as a dogfighting operation.
He paid for it all.
What's that?
He paid for it all.
He paid for it all, but was he participating in it? I guess he knew about it, or?
I would imagine he participated in it to some degree.
Yeah.
Just, again, I know guys that were into dogfighting.
Yeah.
Gang members seem to be into dogfighting. Not saying that Michael Vick was part of a gang, but I knew some gang members that were into dogfighting. And so that, he was certainly, I think, guilty of the charges and made an example of. I'm trying to wrap my mind around, you're being cruel to dogs and to animals by pitting them in these fights. They get injured, they get hurt. It's a brutal deal.
Yes.
I tend to think that's not biblically sound. We have dominion, but can we, hey, we're in control. This breed of dog, we're gonna pit you, for my entertainment, we're gonna pit you in a fight where you're gonna injure yourself and harm yourself. I just tend to think that's not how God wanted us to.
Yeah.
But last thing, and I'm sorry, I sit here and think of myself as a little kid taking a magnifying glass and setting ants on fire. That's what I.
Yeah.
Is that the?
As most little kids have done.
Yeah.
It is cultural, as Anthony was saying, but St. Francis of Assisi, who's credited for the Franciscan monks, and he's known as the patron saint of animals. So in the Catholic faith, there's all sorts of saints, and the saints basically represent a good quality that someone carried. And St. Francis of Assisi, you'll see statues of him with a bird on his hand and dogs and lambs by his feet, and it's a pretty interesting guy to study. So yeah, from the Catholic perspective, and I think from the Christian's perspective in general, it's about compassion. We should take care of our environment, right? We should take care of our animals. This is a gift from God. We shouldn't worship these things, but we should just take care of it and be good stewards of what we've been given. So, but the dog fighting is brutal. In the Latino community, it's cockfighting, just as brutal. If you ever watch it, it becomes, and you see the results of it. It's damning, right? So, but I love what Michael Vick has done with his life. He came back strong. I love him as a commentator, and man, I hope the best for him as a coach as well.
You just brought up something fascinating. Do we think there's a difference between cockfighting and dogfighting? And I do, only because dogs are a great companion. Again, I'm not a pit bull, but dogs are a great companion. They can protect you, your kids, your home. They do show you a love and affinity and seem to have a memory. You're away from a dog for a week or two, and he's like a little kid when he sees you. That's not the same for a cock.
But even what you're saying there is a subjective line. Now, in my family, we grew up with pit bulls, and they are good dogs. Like I didn't really see the horrors of pit bull. We had pit bulls, Rottweilers, and back in the 90s, those dogs were like persona non grata. Like you couldn't have it, but they're a good dog. You take care of them, you're compassionate towards. I think what we're all speaking to as it relates to the biblical dynamic is stewardship, okay? These animals, if we're using them for utility, we're using them in a compassionate way, we're using them for companionship and all of that, utilize that. But when we step out of that bounds, as mankind does, we ruin all kinds of stuff. So when we take, chickens for whatnot, and we say, okay, yeah, we're gonna put them to fight, even then we're stepping out of this utility piece. And if we're gonna use them for food, et cetera, let's do that. But again, the subjective piece that I get to is that from a cultural dynamic, how we look at, dogs, cats, et cetera, and to put Vick away for 2 years for this, again, we've got to get our priorities aligned, because again, we will do that for him, but abortion, in cases of rape and things like that, our whole system is jacked up.
Sounds like we're all in agreement here and that this is inhumane and you should not do it. So my argument this morning was, what should the penalty be for doing it? And why is it so much more severe than a lot of the penalties we give when you violate humans? Because humans, in the eyes of God, hold far more value.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the whole thing felt weird. These people who like act like Michael Vick. You would think Michael Vick abused children. People treat him like a pedophile.
To this day.
And I don't get it. I've never understood it. It's felt weird from the start.
Yeah.
Virgil?
Yeah, you've got a guy who spent $1 million+ in retribution. Spent 20+ months in a federal prison, paid his debt to society. At the same time, had to undergo a complete PR remakeover for what he engaged in, and to the point that's being made here by TJ Moe. We don't even have that kind of a thought process for babies in the womb. You had at the DNC, you had a mobile abortion unit able to be kind of shared there, but no one, there was no flack caught. That was seen as something that was a positive thing. Whereas this issue, again, with Michael Vick, I'm not trying to justify it. I do think, to the point that TJ Moe is making, there are categories to this thing. And the highest category would be that of human life, and of human life. The most innocent of all human life is the life in the womb. And so when we should have those kinds of priorities and respond to others accordingly.
Can I add one thing here? Because this is a question that this whole argument sort of stems from. If a human you don't know is drowning and your dog is drowning next to him, who do you save? And we all get this emotional attachment with our dog because that dog has protected our family, and that dog has grown up with our little kids and sleeps with us every night, and we know this dog. Mm-hmm. I've never met that person a day in my life, but God tells us that human life is more valuable. So it's more about your own experience or what God just told you.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind. You grew up with pit bulls.
Yeah.
As pets.
Yes.
As like, that's what you played with.
Now, you keep in mind, I'm 8, 9, 10 years old. This is a dog. And we had, in addition to pit bulls, Rottweilers, even had a Cocker Spaniel at the time. We had dogs. Pit bulls. Yes, sir.
And you never had a problem with them?
Never.
So when you see a pit, you don't even really bat an eye?
When I see a dog that I'm not around, okay, that's any dog. I mean, because they all have teeth. I mean,
I agree with you.
Any dog that I see, my first instinct is to pet.
No.
Not pit bulls, man.
Not pit bulls, but
I was at my friend's house Saturday night for a Christmas party, and he has a pit bull, and I had my little guy with me, right? And so I see that pit bull, big old head, beautiful dog.
Yes.
This guy rescued pits.
Yeah.
I do love pits, but I had my boy with me, and I wasn't putting that boy in the ground, because, he's eye level with the dog. But that's any dog as well.
Sure.
Even my brother's dog. So, but, I hold the guy up because it's a strange pit. I've met the dog before, but I don't trust any.
You got a brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, there is something here, and the pit bull owners, those people defend their pit bulls like you will defend your baby. It's the craziest thing in the world. And they'll defend all pit bulls. And it's all about the owner. Well, how come every owner says that, and then their pit bull's the one that just attacked this 3-year-old out of nowhere and won't let go? These things got the strongest jaws of virtually any animal out there. I'm telling you, I have watched pit bulls. I got a rental property. I was in the back working. And next door, there's 2 pit bulls that are fighting with each other, and they about killed their owner because they wouldn't let go.
Wow.
And then you don't ever jump in on a pit bull fight because they will turn on you in a heartbeat, and that's it. They'll bite your neck, you're done. And it doesn't matter how not, but never had a single incident ever before. I've had these things since they were puppies.
So you don't spray pit bulls with a water hose to break them up like we used to do in the hood?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Air spray, maybe.
All right, I want to move on to, or move back to Travis Hunter and his girlfriend. We showed you all yesterday Travis Hunter defending his girlfriend. Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner. His girlfriend is his fiance. Travis Hunter, I believe, is 21. I think she's 23, 24 years old. We had the clip yesterday that I want to replay because I want to show it. I think we have it edited now where he talks about her drinking that night. So let's play SOT number 7. Just to refresh everybody's memory, Travis Hunter defending his girlfriend.
You ain't never had no girl. So why y'all talking about me? Find something else to talk about. You talk about my girl. Go talk about your girl. Go find a girl. Go find a life. Stop worrying about what I got going on. I know what I got. I know my girl. My girl been with me for 5 years. Y'all are just not starting to talk about me and just not starting to be with me. Like, come on, man. Y'all go do something else with y'all life. Clickbait pages, y'all better stop. I'm telling y'all. Y'all, if something bad gonna happen to y'all, y'all keep doing that. Y'all better stop that. I ain't playing. Y'all better stop. All the clickbaiting pages. You know, when we was sitting down and I was at my papa shop, we was talking about my family. What was they gonna do while I was in there signing stuff? I had all my family there. And that's why she did. That's why she said she's gonna stay there so they can get stuff. That's why she said she's gonna sit there so they can get stuff, have fun there. She wanted to go back they wanted to go back. Some of them want to go back to the hotel, some of them didn't. Y'all try to make everything, y'all want everything for clicks. Like, stop that. That's crazy. Like, y'all hate on me and then y'all go and hate on my girl. Like, bro, I feel the same pain that she feel. We're inseparable, bro. We with each other. Like, she hurting, of course I'm gonna be hurting. If I'm hurting, of course she gonna be hurting. Yeah, she's still sleeping. She slumped. You know when you hurt, but you just cry yourself to sleep and you just be gone. Like, she drunk like OD amount tonight for no reason.
So that's Travis Hunter, 21, 23, 24-year-old girlfriend, fiance, talking about defending her from critics and talking about her drinking herself and crying herself to sleep. Not the best look, but his girlfriend yesterday released an 8-minute video defending herself. We've condensed this to about 3 minutes. I want to share that with the audience and then we'll discuss. Let's play SOT number 8.
I'm going to start from the very beginning with this my type thing. I got permission from Travis to say these things because these are previously things I didn't want online. But I'm going to tell y'all the full story just so y'all know. So Travis, when he first ever DM'd me, when we first met, I said I left him in my DM for 2 months, and people said, oh, she left him in his DM until she figured out who he was. That is not true at all. The real reason Travis sat in my DM for 2 months is because he DM'd me when he had a girlfriend, and her name was in his bio, so I instantly knew he had a partner. So I exited the message, and he sat there until he was single. I don't do home wrecking. I'm not a side piece. I don't stand for any of those things. I support women, so I would never do that to another woman because I would never want it done to me. So I ignored him until he was single. That's the real reason he sat in my DM. Then the second thing, when I said he wasn't my type, I did not mean attractiveness. I don't have a physical type, period. No two men that I previously dated look the same. My first one was a white cowboy. Second one was a Mexican soccer player. Then I dated a black man who was a SoundCloud rapper. And then Travis. So I have never dated the same.
A lot of information there. Probably shouldn't be walking through her dating history. She put out a second video that I found even more stunning. Or maybe this is a different edit of that video where she talked about how Travis courted her, or part of the courting process involved Travis sitting out in his car waiting for her as she partied inside of nightclubs. Let's play the clip.
To drink, he doesn't drink. And I'm Hispanic, so I have tequila like in my veins. So I drink. I don't drink a lot, but I drink, and I used to party and stuff. And he would literally drive me, sit outside for hours while I'm inside like partying, and then take us home. Like, he never tried to be like, oh, just because I drink, you can't drink, or you can't hang out with your friends, or you can't, you know.
I'm unmarried, so I'm gonna try to back my way out of this and let these married guys talk about it. But Travis doesn't seem to have the steering wheel. I don't think he's got
when he's dropping her off at the club.
He was driving then.
Yeah, is it the movie Crimson Tide? His girlfriend's got the con, I think.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Anthony?
This is one of those put down the shovel moments. Like you've already dug into this, and I say you, I'm speaking to both of them, already dug into this by having this public relationship. If social media has told us anything, if reality TV has told us anything, this public relationship, we explain everything we do, everything that happens, our ups and downs, and our reaction to it. It just doesn't bode well. So they don't need to share this. The details of what they're sharing does seem a little problematic. You know, if this is how this relationship functions, if this is, you know, some of the ways now, you know, depending on if it's laid out like she's saying, you know, those are things that, again, need to be talked about with counsel, with spiritual counsel involved to walk through how and why you do things. I'll share this and I'll show you what I mean. She talks about, oh yeah, you know, drinking, I drink, you know, that's a part of what I do, but I don't drink too much, okay? But then when this major issue comes up, oh yeah, she's drunk, she's out, right? So that tells me that this becomes, you know, Scripture talks about not giving too much wine. It shows that you're using this as an outlet to deal with your problems. That's a problem in marriage. Whereas this should be some conversation that we have between us. It should be some things that we pray about rather than, well, I'm getting ready to go drink. You do whatever you got to do, but I'm getting ready to drink this situation away. That can be, and it will be a problem if it's not addressed. So those things are problematic. But again, back to my first point, even sharing this, it's not necessary. It just isn't. If me and my wife have an issue, an argument or whatnot, and if somebody else saw, like, oh man, I saw Anthony, they seemed like they were, you know, a little upset when they got out of the car. I have no desire and no pressure to, hey, everybody, I want to tell you what, y'all saw us get out the car a little upset and no, it's not necessary. But in a social media relationship, that's how it's handled.
Kevin, you go.
This was clearly an audition tape for the Real Housewives of the NFL, or, you know, or college football, the fiancés of college football. You know, it's just kind of sad. You know, it's like gossiping in high school or middle school or anything else. You know, we used to be fortunate enough to have the, you know, the tabloids on the grocery store shelves, and you'd be able to kind of graze them, and you wouldn't have to open it and read it. But this is kind of put in our face over and over again. So. It's problematic for sure. He's got to put his foot down. He needs some leadership mentoring. He needs some guidance. He needs some principles. And it's all around masculinity. Femininity does what it does, but masculinity's got to lead and it's got to protect. And he's got to really put a framework down of, hey, he's got to grab her by the hand and lead her in a direction and say, hey, here's how it's going to be. It's my way or the highway. He's got to do that at some point because he's going to be the provider and protector. And at some point, you got to say, let's turn off these cameras. Let's turn off these phones.
The problem we have here, and I want to broaden the discussion beyond Travis Hunter, because part of what we try to do here on the show, and why I love, like today, when I can bring 4 married guys on, and is guys like Travis Hunter, I think, are isolated away from good information, good insight. I think a lot of young people are, a lot of young men are. The whole society is about how can we build strong women? Everything's directed that way. And there's very little like, how can we build strong men? And so I want to broaden the conversation and just kind of start here. My father, who was not someone with a biblical worldview, but I can remember as a kid, he told me in 1984, you should marry a woman who likes you more than you like her. Don't even know if it's sound advice, but that was his advice. And I look at our culture, the American culture, it's happy wife, happy life. It's all about, hey, how can we make women happy, 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 happy? How can we make just anyone, mother, girlfriend, fiance, wife, how can we make them happy? And that's what he's drunk on that. I couldn't imagine sitting outside of a nightclub. My girl is inside drinking, men are hitting on her, and she's hanging with her girls and dancing, and the way people dance now, and I'm sitting outside waiting on her, and I'm Travis Hunter. But I got this huge, bright future, and he's basically sitting outside of and I'm not saying, I'm making an analogy. He's sitting outside of a strip club waiting on her to get done with her last lap dance before coming out to him. And he thinks this is appropriate. Because, and again, I look at it because the whole culture is about what can we do to make women happy and make sure every one of their little heart desires is met. And that's how you prove you love a woman, and that's how you win a woman in this culture. I don't think it's the right formula. Virgil, you fire first on that.
No, I think about Travis. You mentioned it previously. I've got a young son, 19 years old. He's engaged, and I've trained my boys to understand that if you're finding a wife, you need to find someone who's willing to get on your program and follow the direction that you're leading. He doesn't drink. Now she's drinking and with party, as partying. And I'm talking about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, obviously in this instance, does not drink, but yet he's got someone who does. And then, he's not at the club, but now she is. That's not, he's following her program. And that's a recipe for absolute disaster and destruction. His whole streaming episode where he got on the stream and was kind of throwing up all of the emotional aspects of what other people were saying and how that was problematic. That's him following her lead. If he were smart, he'd have told her, "Hey, don't listen to that. You're with me. We got this," and squash it. But he's emotional, so he's following her lead in all of that. And then even her response. Where was he? Like, if why not be a united front? If you're going to even do this, I would recommend you don't. But even if you're going to do this, he should have been beside her and leading the charge. And here's my woman, and here's what we don't owe you anything, and here's what we're going to do. All of that was problematic and a backwards step that is just indicative of everything we've been saying. This social culture. This narcissistic culture that truly believes we need to witness every single facet of your lives, and both of them, they have their own YouTube channels. They're trying to grow an audience, and all of this plays into it. It's incredibly problematic. Before we end, I do want to say this. I want to apologize to my brother Kevin.
You got somewhere to go, Virgil?
No. I just wanted to apologize to Kevin. I didn't get him the cream colored mock turtleneck memo. And so he's out. Like I guess Anthony got it.
I'm the white guy left
Kevin
out of it,
Kevin didn't get it.
I love your point about happy wife, happy life. It is the stupidest phrase, and anywhere when you talk, relationally speaking, it is the dumbest phrase. I don't even like happy spouse, happy house. I think that's also idiotic because my wife is pregnant with our third kid. I don't know. I'm trying to think back. Our youngest is almost 4. I haven't had a thought of, am I happy yet, since we've had these kids. My thought has been, am I meeting my family's needs right now? Is everybody taken care of? Can we pay our bills? The amount of things that you have so many jobs as both a husband and a wife. Holy cow, that if you saw the list of things my wife has to do to take care of our house, and mine outside the house and also in the house, I've not had time to sit there and think, am I happy? And if not, I better go raise hell in my wife's life so that she knows happy husband, happy whatever the end of that phrase is. It doesn't exist. My wife hasn't had it either. She gets to the end of the day and we're exhausted, and we lay in bed and give each other a hug, so we're like, we made it.
It's good. And, a lot of this is the upside down world we're living in, from a broad perspective. In our culture, debt equals wealth, war equals peace, sodomy equals pride, abortion equals freedom, right? And marriage equals prison, oftentimes, right? And that's not the case, right? I mean, as men, we have a purpose. We have to walk in that purpose. What TJ is just saying is this is a biblical view. I'm the head of my household and I have to lead. And so from a broader perspective, we have to flip this upside down world, or at least us as men have to live in this upside down world the correct way and lead and be powerful and be fearless. And so I think that's, to sit there in your car waiting for your girlfriend or fiance or whoever it is to come out of a club, that's not living fearlessly. That's not living with purpose. I mean, that's living with, some problems. So I think that's a lot of it from a broad perspective, is this upside down world. Even the idea of being independent. There's no such thing. The key to life is being dependent on people that you trust and people you have a common framework and a common goals with. And so, he's got a lot of thinking to do, but this goes for all young men. A lot of men, I think Virgil said this the other day, that men aren't getting married till their 30s now. So it is good to see that he's engaged, I guess, but is it engaged for the right reason, right? Is it,
Guys, look what they're doing to each other. I can't get over the videos go back. They think they're sticking up for each other. But all we know now is that Travis Hunter's fiance is a drunk, and that Travis cheated on his previous girlfriend, slid into her DMs when he was still dating somebody else, and he sits outside of a club for 3 hours, and everybody thinks that he's whipped. That's all we got out of all these videos. No, all the protection and ideas that they thought I'm sticking up for.
We also got her dating history, too.
Yes. Yeah, I know she likes white people, Mexicans, and black people. Congratulations.
You wanted to take it broad, Jason. We'll take it broad. We'll go back to the book, okay? If you use this phrase, happy spouse, happy house, happy wife, happy life, all that, God does not institute marriage to make us happy. It is there to make us holy. It's there to make us like him. He sets the paradigm of marriage. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loves the church. I can't know how to love my wife unless I know God, unless I know Christ, unless I know how he loves the church. Wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord. She needs to know the Lord, even to understand how to love her husband. Yeah. So this whole idea is not about us. It's all about God. And then you look at what happened in the garden, okay? The command has been given. You can eat of any tree in the garden except this one right here. And you've got voices, Satan, voices in her ear. She sees it. It looks desirable for food. He was able to convince her that everything is not enough. You need this as well. So if you live under this paradigm of happy wife, happy life, or happy spouse, happy house, there will never be I can have it all, because there's voices on the outside that are saying, even if you do have it all, there's something else over here. So that's where, again, that kind of wisdom that even if, and I know you were using Travis and her as the example, if there's that young man that's saying, man, I got to do whatever I can to make her happy, you will never be able to complete that. That's right. Only God can. So I tell young people, I tell all of our young folk, hide yourself in God. That way, in order for them to be able to find you, they have to find God first. If she hides herself in God, if Travis is looking for a good wife, he's got to find God first. And then God will provide. Here she is. This is who you have. And then you two spend your time. What do we do to make God happy in this? What do we do to make God pleased? TJ's laying it out. I'm doing the best I can to provide. I'm doing the best I can to teach. I'm doing the best I can to protect my family. If by the end of the day, I can say, man, okay, our lights are on, we've got shelter, everybody's safe, and everybody knows the Lord, he rests easy. Whether that's happiness or not, we'll let the dictionary define that. But we do know that God is pleased at the end of the day. For me and my wife, our goal, we know we are raising our kids for a generation and a time that we will never see. So our dying goal is I want to show you the love of God. I want to show it to you, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to love a spouse, what it means to please God. And so that when you're in that new generation, everything's going to be changed. We're thinking internet now, whatever it's going to be, AI, whatever, you're going to at minimum know this is what it means to love God and to love one another.
Amen, brother.
Virgil, correct me if I'm wrong, or help finish my thought here. Is one thing that young people have forgotten, old people have forgotten, is that there would be no marriage without God. It's a biblical covenant. And so we've somehow removed God from marriage and from relationships. These people are getting married. Right now, I don't think they're clearly not focused on God. And so that they've kind of removed, and it's just about, hey, making myself happy. But and so the young people, young men in particular that are listening to this conversation, everything's been plain spoken, but I just want to make sure you understand it. If you want to get married, what Anthony is saying and what is factually true, you have to direct your eyes towards God and follow him.
Yes.
That's the only way a marriage will work. And I know I know some people that they've been married 30 years. Well, maybe they really haven't. Maybe under this worldly definition, they've been married. When I'm saying I know some people that don't believe in God, they've been married 30 years. You don't know what that marriage actually looks like, operates like. I'm sure it's not biblically strong. And so it's really not a marriage. It's just something they did because that's what the culture said they should do, and they get some tax benefits from it. And so I just want the young men that's out here listening to this, I'm not telling you to become a caveman and just go snatch a woman and, you got to do this, blah, blah, blah. Only way you can snatch that woman is by following God.
Right.
And then if she's willing to follow God, she will follow you because she'll see that you're directing her towards God. Anyway, complete my thought, or if I haven't spelled it out, but I just don't want young people to miss the point.
No, I think that is the point. And again, Ephesians 5:25 lays it out very clearly. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Before you can find a wife or find that good thing, you've got to know Christ. You've got to know what it looks like for you to sacrifice your life for your bride, the church. As Christ did his bride, the church. We have to follow the biblical model. It is the order that God has set up: God, man, woman, children. It's God's divine order, and we have to connect ourselves to it. We've been disconnected for so long. We think we know best. And obviously, with Travis and he's not the only person doing this, but young men like him, they're trying the best they know how with what they have, right? He's got all this wealth, all this money, difficult for him to listen to anyone tell him or provide instruction to him. I agree with everything Anthony said. He laid out the biblical case there, the issue thereafter, because again, my thought was, as he was saying that, Travis Hunter and his girlfriend are probably gonna say, well, we know God. We have a relationship with him. Well, my next question would be, what church are you going to? And what pastor or leaders are you being discipled by? Who are you connected with that can provide the insight that you need to walk out a biblical marriage? Because at the end of the day, that's what success looks like.
Anybody else, or I can go to Shemeka? We done here, gentlemen?
That was great.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. You got Anthony, Virgil, Kevin working double duty. Well, and didn't even bat an eye when I asked. Said thank you. All right, appreciate you guys. Shemeka Michelle, next.
Your brain, exploit yourself for gain, exceed your expose your every flaw, explain to one and all how to excel in every situation. But don't put an X in my Christmas, 'cause Jesus is the reason for it all. Yes, Santa Claus is cool, But when I celebrate my Yule, it's about that baby in the manger, and not how I deck my halls. Don't put an X in my Christmas. Oh, 'cause Xmas in my world will never do. But if you have to put an X in something, then Twitter's got an X that's just for you.
All right, welcome back. Time for some Shemeka show. Shemeka Michelle joining us. Shemeka, I want to first let you comment on Michael Vick and dogs. You're a little further. You're a little bit even more extreme than TJ Moe. Your thoughts on our conversation about Michael Vick and whether or not he's a felon or not for participating in dogfighting?
Jason, no, I don't think he's a felon for participating in dogfighting, and I don't think he should have done any time behind bars. Honestly, the affection that I see between humans and dogs sometimes just comes across as unnatural to me. I see it the same way I see two men laying together or two women laying together. It's unnatural. The dog is licking you in the face and sleeping in the bed, and people are saying, oh, I prefer a dog over humans. They're nicer to me. Something's wrong with you. For me, I think we go way too far. Now, when Anthony was saying it's subjective, I have to agree that it is subjective because there are people that believe if you take a whale out of its natural habitat and have it swimming around doing flips and shooting water out of its blowhole, that's wrong because they do that for entertainment of people all the time. So I do ask, where do we draw the line? And of course, some people would say we know the difference between what's cruel and what's not. But my daughter's a vegetarian. She stopped eating meat in the 5th grade because she said she doesn't like the way animals are treated. We see PETA all the time throwing paint on people with leather pants or fur coats. Like, where do we draw the line? But even still, I just believe we go too far. And I think him being sent to prison was too far. If you felt like he needed some type of punishment or community service or paying some type of fine, okay. But prison was too much, especially when I just saw somebody get 3 years here for murder and he got the same amount of time for dogs. It's crazy to me.
Make a great point about whales and dolphins because they're actually, I think, smarter than dogs. I think, and they have real emotion. When a whale gets taken away from its tribe or family or whatever, they crying like little babies. And anyway, you make a great point. Shemeka, your thoughts on Travis Hunter's girlfriend? I think her name's Leanna. And her latest videos, and Travis Hunter, whoo boy, she put the simp title on him. He's sitting outside of a nightclub waiting on her to get done partying. Pretty amazing. Your thoughts on that?
Listen, I've gone out with friends and said, I may need a ride because I know I might have, too much to drink or something like that. But sitting outside the club, taking her, sitting in the car, that's LDE. That's going a bit too far. Sitting out there, he's doing way too much. And there's one thing to want to protect your woman. Of course, like I said, if you can't drive, I tell the same thing to my kids. I have 2 that's over 21. Listen, don't drink and drive. If you need me, call me. I don't care what time of the night it is. I'm coming to get you. So that's one thing. But to be sitting out there while she's in the club, that is really pushing it. And I also believe they need to get off social media. You don't owe us any explanation. We are not in your relationship. There's a saying that I won't repeat on this show, but I can say a cleaner version maybe. Jason, what you eat doesn't make me shit. So the fact that, these two people have said, we want to be together, we're going to get married, this is what it is. You don't owe us explanations, 8-minute videos and coming up here constantly telling us, and you're wrong about that. I would not care what social media had to say about the person that I'm going to bed with every night and getting up with every morning. It is what it is. If you don't like it, too bad, so sad. Or as my mom would say, tough titty kitty, ain't no more milk. This is not going to end well with them constantly feeling like they have to give us an explanation and come talk to us and tell us what's going on in their personal lives. Even when we look at like Real Housewives of New Jersey or Atlanta or Beverly Hills, a lot of times this does not end well for those couples. They sacrifice the sanctity, of their relationship for clout and for fame, and it just doesn't work. I think this is just going way too far. And unfortunately, if they don't have a prenup, it's going to be a very expensive lesson to learn.
The chat. What's popping in the chats today?
Well, good thing I'm not very soft, Jason, because the chat can really go overboard. But we had some super chats. Milan Fan Club sent a super chat. He says, Jason, brace for the influencer wars of 2025, and it will be more rampant on the right. This is why they clamor for a bridge with the crazy lefties.
I don't know. Read that one to me again. Brace for an influencer war? And
yes.
And
for 2025,
well,
this was back when you were talking about
Cowherd and Stephen A. Smith, yeah.
Yeah. And he says this is why he says it's going to be an influencer war and it'll be more rampant on the right. This is why they clamor for a bridge with the crazy lefties.
I'll have to think about that. Thank you for the super chat. Next.
Ronald Smith sent a super chat and he says to take a dump on Royce White and talk about not giving up on people seems fraudulent.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm not going to back down. Royce is someone I don't trust. And so, if you take some private conversation or text exchange and make it content on your show, I'm probably going to back away from you and not look back. So it is what it is. I wish Royce well. I authentically do. But, the guy took a private chat exchange and made a show about it and tried to tell me how to do this show. Royce's ego out of control, and I just don't trust Royce. You go, you vote for Biden and Harris in 2020, and the next thing you know, you're the ultimate MAGA guy, and you're telling me how to do my show, and you're talking about private text message exchange. I've forgiven Royce, but I'm not circling back. Been bit by a snake once. That's good enough for me. Next.
The Doran Williams Show sent a couple of super chats, but this one says Vick was given more time by the judge after trial.
Vick, well, I think the judge passes out time, and so that's probably within their purview. But I appreciate the super chat. Next.
Last one, Jason. Christopher Powell says, hey, I have a suggestion. Whitlock, when you're unable to do a show, let TJ Moe and Steve Kim host the show in your absence.
Thank you, Steve Kim and TJ Moe's mom, for combining on that.
Mm-hmm. We do have the same mother. I know you wouldn't be able to tell with how we look, but we do.
That is a good idea, and we will do that. Thank you for the suggestion. Appreciate, love you all. Great job, Shemeka. We'll see you guys. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I wanna be. I wanna be.